Hi, friends. Today I want to share a new story with you. Hope you enjoy it. The first time it happened, I thought it was just a mistake. Maybe I forgot my lunch at home. The second time, I told myself I must have put it in the wrong spot in the office fridge. But by the third, fourth, and fifth time, I couldn't pretend anymore. Someone was stealing my lunches. I stood in front of the break room fridge, my stomach growling, scanning the shelves, hoping my food might magically show up. But no, once again, it was gone. My hands tightened into fists. Who would do this? And why? Looking for something? Someone asked. It was Lillian, one of the few coworkers I actually liked. She leaned against the counter, sipping her tea. My lunch, I grumbled. Gone again. Someone keeps taking it. Lillian's eyes widened. Seriously? That's terrible. Maybe you should label it. I do, I said, frustrated. I use a big red marker. My name's right there. Doesn't stop them. She frowned. You know, I've seen Francis hanging around the fridge a lot lately. Yesterday he stuffed a sandwich in his mouth like he was hiding something. Francis, hearing his name made my blood boil. He was known for being rude and taking credit for others' work, never admitting when he was wrong. Stealing lunch? It sounded like him. That night, I came up with a plan. The next morning, I got to work early and packed my lunch with a big note, "Do not touch," a warning and a dare. Then I waited. At lunchtime, I stayed near the break room, pretending to scroll on my phone, but really watching the fridge. Just like I expected, Francis walked in, looked around, and opened the door. His eyes landed on my lunch. I held my breath. He reached out, grabbed my container, popped it open, and helped himself to a forkful. I stepped forward, heart racing, enjoying my lunch. "Francis?" My voice was loud and clear in the quiet room. He jumped a little, then gave me a smug smile. "Oh, this? Thought it was mine. Same container. Easy mistake, right?" I said coolly. "So you're saying you've been accidentally stealing my food for 2 weeks?" He shrugged and kept eating without a care. "Maybe you should get a different lunchbox." I clenched my fists. This wasn't just stealing. He didn't even care he got caught. He made it sound like it was my fault. Unbelievable, I muttered, turning and walking out. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, burning with anger. Francis had stolen from me again, and acted like it was no big deal. It wasn't just hunger twisting my stomach, it was fury. I had to do something he wouldn't forget. I needed a perfect plan. At lunch the next day, I walked into the kitchen carrying a carefully packed lunch. Inside, mashed potatoes, juicy slices of roasted chicken, and a special surprise, thick gravy mixed with a good amount of laxatives. Enough to make him miserable, but not enough to get me into real trouble. I placed the container right where my lunches always got taken from. Then I left, pretending nothing was different. The wait was almost unbearable. I kept checking the clock, waiting for him to strike. Finally, he walked into the kitchen, strutting like he owned the place. He didn't even bother to look around before grabbing my lunch. My heart pounded. I watched as he opened the container, sniffed it, and said, "Finally, something decent." I gripped my pen tightly. Minutes later, I watched him sit at his desk, scarfing it down, clueless about the trap. 15 minutes went by, then 20. Slowly, his face changed. He shifted in his seat, his forehead getting shiny with sweat. He gulped water, looking more and more uncomfortable. A soft groan came from him. He grabbed his stomach. Then, all of a sudden, he shot up, almost knocking his keyboard off the desk. His face turned pale. "Oh God," he gasped. "Oh no." And just like that, he ran. Everyone in the office turned to watch Francis sprint for the bathroom, one hand on his stomach, the other flailing around. The bathroom door slammed behind him. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the moment. Sweet, sweet justice. For the next hour, the only sounds from the restroom were painful groans. People around the office shared amused looks. I acted busy at my desk, but inside, I was celebrating. Francis had taken my lunches for too long, and today, he finally got what he deserved. At exactly 9:30 a.m., an email popped up. The subject line, "Meeting with HR, immediate attendance required." A wave of nervousness hit me. Maybe my plan had worked a little too well. Maybe Francis had complained. I grabbed my notepad, took a deep breath, and walked into HR's office. Ms. Ellsworth, the head of HR, sat behind her desk with a serious face. Francis was already there, slumped in a chair. He looked terrible, pale and tired. "Verity," Ms. Ellsworth said, folding her hands. Francis says you tampered with food. He thinks you poisoned a lunch he ate by mistake. I almost laughed. Mistake? That's funny, I said calmly. I didn't know my own lunch belonged to Francis. Francis glared at me. You knew I'd take it, he snapped. You did it on purpose. Poisoning someone at work is serious. I leaned forward. So you're admitting you stole my lunch? Ms. Ellsworth sighed. This isn't about the past. It's about your actions. This is a workplace, not a place for revenge. I squeezed my hands under the table. So I'm supposed to let him steal from me? I'm saying retaliation wasn't right, she replied. From now on, I suggest you keep your lunches locked up. Francis waved his hand like it was nothing. Yeah, I'll bring my own food. That was it? A small warning? I let out a slow breath. It wasn't over, not even close. Francis thought he had won. He had no idea what was coming next. As soon as HR brushed me off with their lock your lunch advice, a new plan formed in my mind. This time, I wasn't just going to embarrass him, I'd make sure he never touched my food again. That night, I prepared a special lunch, mashed potatoes, soft and buttery, but hidden inside were earthworms and a few roaches. Their dark shells blended into the creamy potatoes. The thought made me gag, but for Francis, it was perfect. The next morning, I placed my lunch in the fridge. Before leaving, I carefully set up a small hidden camera pointing at the fridge to catch everything. An hour passed, then two. Finally, Francis wandered into the break room. I watched the live video on my phone, my heart racing. He opened the fridge, grabbed my container, and smiled like he had won. He dug right in. Then, a pause, a slow chew. His face twisted in disgust. Oh, gee, Francis jumped up, knocking over his chair, gagging loudly. He stumbled toward the bathroom, coughing and cursing. The office froze in silence. Then everyone started whispering. I smiled to myself, but the best part? I had it all recorded. By lunchtime, I had the proof HR couldn't ignore. Francis wasn't just a thief, now everyone could see it. I watched the video again and again. Each time, it made me feel better. There he was, stealing my lunch, taking a huge bite, and gagging when he realized the truth. His panic, his sprint to the restroom, it was all there, clear as day. By noon, the whole office was buzzing. Someone said Francis was still stuck in the bathroom, groaning. Others joked about how green he looked, but I had bigger plans. With my USB drive in hand, I walked into HR. Hannah, the same HR rep from before, looked up, tired. You again? She sighed. I placed the USB on her desk. Play it. She hesitated, but hit play. As she watched, her face changed, from surprise, to disgust, to realization. This is bad, she muttered. For him, I said, and I expect you to do something about it. She nodded slowly. We'll review. No, I cut her off. You told me to protect my lunch instead of holding him responsible. I did you one better. I caught him red-handed. If you ignore this, it'll make you look bad too. Her mouth tightened into a straight line. I knew she had no choice now. By the afternoon, an office-wide email went out. Francis is suspended pending investigation. I thought I'd feel calm, maybe happy, but instead, the office buzzed even louder. People started telling their own stories, how Francis bullied interns, stole ideas, and made others miserable. HR got flooded with complaints. 2 days later, another email came. Francis's employment has been terminated, effective immediately. It turned out, my revenge wasn't the only reason he got fired. I had just lit the match. HR couldn't ignore everything anymore. That evening, I packed up my things to head home. I passed the break room fridge. It stood open, full of neatly labeled lunches. No missing meals, no thieves. Justice had finally been served. Friends, what do you think of this story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories like this? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.